Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of the BeDifferential Podcast. I'm your host, Ava Gregory, and this week we are joined by a very unique guest coming as a U.S. Naval officer, racer, and NASCAR representative, Jesse Iwuji. Welcome to this week's episode.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
I'm so excited to hear your story. I think that your journey is definitely very unique. Why don't you give the listener just a high level, little bit about yourself before we really get into it?
Yeah. So I really don't have the normal story of any NASCAR driver or even just racing driver in general. Most drivers, when they start racing, they're racing from ages like 5 to 8 years old or so, like in go-karts, and then they work their way up. For me, I did not have that kind of journey. I started playing football when I was in like middle school and grew up playing football. I was from Texas originally, so both of my parents are immigrants from Nigeria. They settled in Texas. They had me and my two brothers and my sister. And growing up in Texas, everybody knows that football is like the biggest thing in the world there. So I grew up playing football, middle school, high school, and then eventually had these big goals and dreams to go off to college and play college football. And then that led me towards working very, very hard so I could find an opportunity in college, and eventually got recruited by a few schools. One of them was the Naval Academy. They recruited me. I decided that I wanted to go there because they had a great football team. I could get a great education and then be able to serve as an officer in the United States Navy. So that took me into the Naval Academy, played football there 4 years, graduated, became an officer in the Navy. And while serving, I was on two different ships, went on two different deployments. And in between those deployments, that's when I really started growing this passion for cars and racing, which led me towards eventually wanting to be like, you know what, hey, why don't I try to become a professional race car driver? Like I knew I was starting like super, super late. I knew that it was going to be a very difficult journey. But for me, like once I had that vision and I saw myself becoming a driver, I figured, you know what, like if it's in my mind and I fully and like insanely and obsessively believe that it's possible, then I can make it happen. And that's kind of what led me towards the racing world, which also led me towards the entrepreneurship world as well, because I had to find a way to pay for this stuff because racing is not cheap at all.
Absolutely. And I'm just fascinated by this story. I have watched a couple of like your YouTube videos kind of in preparation for this and saw some of the, recaps of just you being deployed and thinking, okay, I want to go do this. Like I can't stop thinking about being a racing driver. And that's just wild. And I appreciate that you didn't let, not starting as a child stop you from that because it's so true. Some people just think that they've aged out of it or that they've missed the opportunity. So I love that you've grabbed it. So let's talk about it though. What initially sparked that passion for racing? How did that even start?
Yeah. So rolling way, way back when I was about 5 or 6 years old, there's a show that used to be, I can't remember what channel it was on, maybe NBC or something like that. It was called Knight Rider. It was with David Hasselhoff, old show. And I guess by the time I was watching it, I think it was like on reruns, maybe. I can't remember. But anyways, I was watching it when I was like a little kid, and that's like sparked my passion for cars. And after that, I was watching like, cartoons like Speed Racer. And I was, obviously growing up into middle school and high school, the Fast and Furious movies and all the, cool car video games and things like that. So I kind of grew up in that world doing that. So that kind of led me towards having this crazy passion for cars. And then if you have a passion for cars, eventually you'll have a passion for racing, whether you want to actually do it or you just want to watch it or whatever it is. So this passion for cars, I thought it was cool. But, when I was in college playing college football, I was going and playing in front of crowds that were anywhere from 30,000 to over 100,000 people at the games. So I, for a decent period of my life, I was in front of these big crowds on the big stage every weekend. So when I was not playing football anymore, I didn't have that. So I was looking for like that next big thing, like what was going to be that next big rush and sporting whatever that I was going to do that was going to give me that type of feel again. And it wasn't going to be football because I wasn't going to the NFL. So I was like, okay, like what's that next thing? And for whatever reason, I was like, well, I like cars a lot. I'm taking my personal cars to local tracks and doing these track days. Why not try to just become a professional race car driver? So that's kind of where it sparked. And actually the moment where the idea had sparked probably about 2013 of me thinking about it, but like actually deciding that I was going to take steps towards it, that was probably early 2014. It was about January 2014 is when I made that decision. I was actually sitting in my room one night and I had like this whiteboard on my wall and I pulled it off and I erased whatever was on it and I just wrote, become a professional race car driver. And that's what basically was the beginning. That was it. I need to find that whiteboard because it's like magical. Whatever I write on it happens. So
That's amazing. I love that. The power of manifesting. Okay, that's great. So, talk to us a little bit, Jesse. You got initially started. You are competing in NASCAR. Tell us some of your experiences and what you've competed in, just to kind of give the listener a little bit of really picturing who you are.
Yeah. So competing in NASCAR definitely isn't easy at all, right? Uh, the races that we do, the tracks that we go to, the schedule, not much practice before you get on track, right? Like we're like one of the only sports in the world where you don't really get to practice in your sport before you don't practice much before you get out there for the real competition, right? So in football, you practice what 4 or 5 days a week. In basketball, you practice whenever you're not playing games. Soccer, you're practicing whenever you're not playing games. Every sport, you're practicing quite a bit before you lead up to the game. In NASCAR, you get like 1 20, 25 minute practice before the race. That's it. You're not even allowed to go test the car at other places or anything like that. So it's really, really difficult. It wasn't like that always. We used to have more practices, but then they limited it. So it's not easy. And then the other part of it too is racing is different than any other sport. So like in football, for example, like let's say you make it to the NFL or even basketball, the NBA. There's an owner who owns the team. They're making money from all the ticket sales and merch sales and all that stuff for the stadium that they have, right? In NASCAR, these teams, we don't own the stadiums. We don't own any assets except for our race cars. So the only money you really bring in is sponsorship, unless you have some company outside of your racing team that helps pay for your racing. But besides that, you don't have it. So you need sponsorship. So it's very, very
Mm.
sponsorship driven. And we now live in a world where companies who are using their marketing dollars, they can use it on social media ads, they can use it on sponsorship, they can use it on influencers, whatever it is. There's a lot more fighting for that dollar than there was maybe 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
In the 90s and 2000s in NASCAR, sponsorship was pretty easy. They just, if you wanted it, you just asked any company and boom, you had it. But nowadays, these companies are like, well, I could sponsor, but or I could spend the money on maybe sponsoring Coachella or something. And you're fighting for all these other, yeah. So it's tough. It's not easy, but definitely a grind, and it's been rewarding. And if you can figure it out, and you have like massive faith, good things happen.
Yeah. And you've gotten into, as you mentioned earlier, your entrepreneurial side. So talk a little bit
Yeah.
about the team ownership, team representation. What has that journey looked like?
Yeah, so the entrepreneurial side. So when I first got into racing, I quickly realized, like I said, racing is expensive, and I couldn't find sponsorship in the early part. So I had to figure out, okay, what can I do to help earn some extra income? Outside of at that time I was still active duty in the Navy.
Mm.
Like my active duty money is like good enough to live a normal life, and not good enough to spend an extra $5,000 every other weekend for racing. Like that kind of money. So I was like, okay, how can I make this work? I was like, let me start a business and just use that extra money to pay for my racing. And that first business I started was I was hosting drag racing events where I would rent out a drag strip, invite a whole bunch of really cool street cars, Corvettes, Camaros, Mustangs, GTRs, whatever, a lot of crazy cars. Come to the track, race, and I'd make money off of basically those ticket sales.
Mm.
And that was my first business I started. I still do it today. In fact, I just had an event this past weekend. So I've been doing that since. That helped earn some extra money to pay for the racing. That got me into the entrepreneurship spirit, which then eventually I started some other businesses in the trucking industry. I do real estate investing, an esports company, I have a film production company, do some government contracting. What else?
Just a small resume.
Yeah, all over the place. Some social media marketing stuff. All over. I'm probably forgetting some of the other stuff I do, but yeah, this is things I do. But anyways, I do all that, and then recently started our own NASCAR team. So when I first started racing, I didn't own the team. I just raced for other people's teams. It was only like a few years ago where we decided to start our own team, which is more expensive and it's not easy. It would have probably been simpler for me to just keep racing for other people, but it's all good. We live and we learn. But it's been cool being able to know that I have my own team, that we can go do cool things with the team and leverage it for other cool opportunities that hopefully provide cool things for other people too as well. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesse, what do you think was the driving factor between going from being a driver and behind the wheel to starting your own team? What was kind of what encouraged you to do that?
Yeah, so I've always been the type of person where I wanted to be like in charge of my like own destiny, right? And I always felt like the best way to be in charge of your destiny is to like own whatever you're doing, right? So that's why I don't work for anybody anymore, except the U.S. government. still. I'm still paying. But besides that, outside of that, that's the only. At least I'm serving the country. That's how I look at it. But outside of that, I just won't work any other normal job anymore because not that they're not great. My brothers, everybody I know, they work normal jobs and make great money, a lot of great money. They don't have the same stress that I have. It's great. Sometimes I look at them like, hey, maybe I should just go do that. But no, for me, I've always been. I don't know why, but I'm just now geared like that where I have to be in control of my own journey. I hate it when anybody else has a say so in where I'm going or what I can do or like I hate it. Like whatever's going to happen for me needs to be because of my moves I made. And if anybody else, their moves are what's controlling what I'm able to do, I can't have it. Like it just doesn't work for me. I'm Jose, not working for me. So whenever my mind rewired into that way, which was sometime in the last 7, 8 years or so. Then at that point, I was like, I have to just always just do my own thing. Like, there's just the only way. And if I make a mistake, then it's on me. But I at least know that somebody else wasn't in charge of my downfall. Like,
That's fair.
I have to write my book. That's it. Now, I'm not saying that other people can't mess you up for sure. That can happen. But at least you know that there's things you can do to fight back and get back. Right? There's no one saying like, no, you can't be here anymore. You can't have this job anymore. We're firing you. Whatever. No. Like
Yeah.
if I'm leaving something, it's because I said I'm leaving. That's it.
Hey, that's fair enough. So Jesse, tell us, what does your role look like as co-owner of a team and as having the background that you do in driver and in the Navy? What do your like typical responsibilities look like as in your role now?
Yeah, so on the ownership side, you're always looking at budget stuff. You're always looking at finding new additional partners for the team. You're always looking at trying to figure out can you find additional drivers to drive for the team because these drivers usually they'll come with a level of sponsorship that they may have, or maybe they just have funding because they come from a family that has a lot of money and they'll just pay for it themselves. So my role really looks at really what I do is just continue to figure out a way for us to stay alive, right? Whatever it is, whether it's financially or in other ways, it's just always looking for a way to stay alive. Sometimes there's sacrifice in there. Sometimes I gotta give up my own money to make things happen. There's sometimes I gotta give up. Sometimes I've given up my own sponsorship. There's been times where we found sponsors for the team, and it was supposed to be for me, but for the betterment of the team, I gave it up so that we could put someone else in the seat that maybe at this particular race they're going to do better than I am. So I'm like, okay, so it's probably smart idea to have them race this one than me. So like there's different things where sometimes you just gotta you always as the owner you always gotta look at the big picture. You can't just be singular focused. You can't just look in one line. You always gotta look at the bigger picture because you are the bigger person. Like you are the
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. How do you think, what is the vetting process that you guys go through when considering drivers? Obviously, as a team owner, you want to win, right? So you want the best. But what characteristics and traits are you looking for in drivers that you bring in?
Yeah, so for drivers, coming in, obviously we want to work with people that we want to work with, right? Like nobody likes an a-hole, so don't want to deal with them at all. Don't lead them. like why feed them to their crap? So you work with people that you want to work with. Like, hey, I enjoy being around this person, right? That's number one. Number two, obviously, you want to be with somebody who's going to be smart enough to take care of the equipment, right? You can
Hmm.
bring all the money in the world, but all that money in the world is going to disappear if you are doing dumb things on the track that are wrecking the cars all the time. Now, racing is inherently dangerous and things happen, right? You can go and be as smart as possible and still get in the wreck. It happens, right? But there's also times where drivers are just doing things that's putting them in a terrible position that causes wrecks to happen all the time. So you want drivers that are going to be smart on track. It's going to save everybody a lot of money. And then drivers that are going to be somewhat marketable, right? So a driver that you can sell, right? Like they have
Yeah.
something about them, whether it's their story, whether it's their business relationships, whatever it is that you can actually, use to help bring in additional partnerships, sponsors, and things like that. So there's a lot of different things. Drivers just only aren't, supposed to be just only good on the track. Like that's great, but they got to be more than that, right? That's the world we live in today.
Yeah, I appreciate that response. I think that some people do come in and they say, I have the skill, but you have to be well-rounded. There has to be other considerations. So, how do you think that your time in the Navy has shaped you as a leader and as a contributor to your involvement in motorsports now? What has that process looked like?
Being in the Navy has definitely helped a lot, right? really learn how to be a professional in the Navy, right? When you come in at 22 years old, you are in charge of a lot of people. Like my division that I had right when I got into the Navy, people in there that could have been my dad, right? And
Yeah.
they're having to like, they're taking my orders, right? So you get put in a very interesting position very, very early, very quick. And there isn't any handbook that just states that, hey, this is how this works and this is what you got to do. Like you got to learn leadership through just experience, right? You got to understand how to push people in the right direction so that the job gets done. But you have to also understand all the different personalities and what you're dealing with, because not everybody moves. Um, not every word you say moves people the same way. So
Yeah.
you got to figure out what works for certain people so that you can accomplish the mission. So yeah, a lot of leadership stuff learned in the Navy, organization, and then also just being able to not make crazy excuses and just go figure it out. That's probably one of the biggest things we learned, not only in Navy but at the Naval Academy, is just figure it out. Right, no matter what happens, whether you have the resources or not, if you if the mission is the mission, you will just figure it out. And
Hmm.
that's what we do.
Yeah. Honestly, I resonate with that so much. I am not in the military, nor have I had personal experience. But I also was 22 when I entered a leadership role that I was responsible for folks that were decades my senior. And that is definitely an interesting thing to navigate and just learn from. And similar as well, I worked for a company that was a pretty scrappy team. So it was the same kind of mentality of you get it done, you figure it out. So
Yes,
I
figure it
love
out.
that. I
Yeah.
resonate with that so deeply. So, you've worked on a lot of different initiatives to increase diversity in underrepresented communities. What are some of the ways that you have spoken to and contributed to the motorsport community in that way?
Yeah, so obviously, being an African American, coming from the military, all that stuff, I come from a very different background than most people getting into racing. So I knew coming in that I would be somewhat of somebody to, I guess, look up to for others who aren't in the sport. There's been a lot of
Yeah.
military folks who I've helped get into the racing world, whether it was like into like NASCAR stuff or other stuff. But I've helped them because they saw me and they're like, wow, I didn't even think it was possible. But by you going out there and basically going through all the stuff you had to go through to even get to where you're going, it gave them permission to say yes to their life, yes to their goals, yes to their dreams. And that's why I do, that's one of the reasons why I do all the things that I do. Some people ask me, why don't you just focus on just this or that? I'm like, I can't. There's too many people right now that if I quit this, quit that, then they would never be able to say yes to themselves. They'd be like, if he can't do it, then I can't even do my one thing. But by me being able to do 10 things, for them, they're like, wow, if he can do those 10 things, then I can do at least one. So it's
Jesse,
kind
that's a
of,
lot of pressure you put on yourself right there.
it is, but if not me, then who, right? Like who
Yeah.
else? There's not a lot of people who will do that, right? We all need someone to see do something or be somewhere so that we're like, you know what? Okay, now it's I think okay, I can do it. I can do it, right?
Yeah.
Like the first person who even attempted to fly, right? It wasn't the Wright brothers, but they saw them say, hey, they kind of almost figured it out, so we can do it too. But if no one even tried, then no one, like for the longest time, no one tried. That's why no one did it. But then somebody
Hmm.
was like, you know what? Somebody has to step up and be that beacon. People can see it, be like, you know what, I can achieve something too as well. So yeah, you got to do it. Like God put me on earth to be able to do a lot of things, and I would be basically like not honoring his path that he put out for me if I wasn't doing all the stuff I'm doing. Like I have to do it. Like he gave me the ability to do all this stuff. I'm not gonna waste it.
That's no, that's awesome. And the visibility is so important. You're right. There's an organization called Women in Motorsports North America, and they often say, if you can see her, you can be her. And it's
Yeah,
that
there you
same
go.
mentality of just having the visibility. So tell me, because you are responsible for a lot of different roles. How do you balance? I mean, driver, business owner, advocate. How do you go through that? Is there any kind of like mental process where you're like, okay, let me stay grounded, let me not get overwhelmed with this? What does that look like?
You know what? So what happens? What I've seen over time, over the last 10 years now, is at first there you do get very overwhelmed because your brain is like it's like a muscle, like any other muscle, right? So if you've never worked it out, right, it's only going to be so big to start. And the first time you go work it out, it's going to hurt. Like little fibers are going to stretch, tear, and you're going to be pretty sore. It's going to hurt at first. And then after that, they repair themselves, and now your muscle is just a little bit bigger and a little bit
Hmm.
stronger. And then now you can go back, and instead of only being able to do 40 pounds, you can now do 50, right?
Right.
And then you go do it again, and all of a sudden now you're sore again, some stuff tore again, it's hurting. But then you come back and now you can do 60. You're stronger. So that's how the brain and the mind works. Like you're gonna stretch it at first, and it's gonna hurt. You're gonna be like overwhelmed. You're gonna have anxiety, like maybe a panic attack, whatever it is. You're like, oh my god, it's too much. Your mind's gonna blow up. But then it's okay. Like, boom, come back, just go to sleep. Come back the next day. Also, the next day, like, oh look, those 10 things that I was freaking out about yesterday, like I could do these now. Now I'm gonna try 15 and just stretch a little bit more. It's gonna hurt. You keep doing that over time. Eventually, you find yourself in a position where like now it just doesn't matter. It doesn't faze me. Like no matter what, I'm just gonna go figure it out, and I'm just gonna go win somehow, some way. I'm gonna go accomplish.
You're gonna write it on the whiteboard. You're gonna
Yeah, something. So that's how I approach it every single day, and I realize there's 24 hours in a day, right? There's you need 6, 7, 8 hours to sleep, right? If you need more time, then sleep faster. So that's why I tell people all the time. But throughout the rest of the day, maximize those other 16, 17, 18, whatever hours. Maximize those, like organize them. I like writing stuff down, so I don't keep it in my mind because there's so much I gotta think about. The more I write down on paper or really on my notes on my phone, the less I gotta keep it in my mind. So the only thing I gotta remember in my mind is go to my notes. That's it. And once I do that, then I'll see everything I need to do. So organize your life in that way. Try to put together teams of people if you can. Have people there to help, where you can delegate things to, so that it's spread out a little bit. Figure out different ways to spread out the stress. You don't have to take it all on yourself.
No, delegating is such a good point. I think a lot of personalities that come into motorsport tend to be type A, and so we all think we have to do it all on our own, and it's so important to have that community to be able to space it out. So that's a great consideration. Tell me, Jesse, you are still obviously super involved in motorsports. What do you see your growth looking like in motorsports? What are some of your goals that you would like to see down the line?
Yeah, the goal is continue to try to expand our NASCAR Xfinity team and get it better. Run full time each year, grow it out. Have more drivers, more teams on track running. Eventually, maybe have a Cup Series team one day. Who knows? I would love to run a Cup race or so at some point. It takes time, effort, energy, money, experience, all that stuff. I have a lot of growth to do as a driver still, but I just want to keep trying to level up. I mean, we're in the NASCAR Xfinity level, which is a great level to be in. There's still one more level above us, right? So why not, aspire to get there? It's not easy. It's not like you can just snap your finger and then you're there. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen. Human beings have already made it happen, and I'm a human being, and I'm no less than anybody else. So why can't I make it happen too as well?
Wait, that's sick. That's a great perspective. Like somebody's already done it. Like I can do that. Like I love that.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So, and tell me, outside of racing, what is something that excites you right now?
Cars. I love anything car related, right? So,
What's your preference? What's your like car preference?
I love all cars. I'm mainly a sports car,
Okay.
person. So I have 3 Corvettes.
Okay, we're
C6,
American. Got it.
yeah, C6 Z06, C8 Z06, and the C8 E-Ray, all Chevy, of course, Team Chevy. And then I'd have a Nissan R34 GTR. So the
Okay.
Skyline, the Skyline's fun. It's my only JDM car right now, and I don't have any European cars. They're cool, but don't have them, don't need them. I'm cool with my GTR and my Corvettes. I'm good.
That's fair enough. I'm a German car gal all the way, so we'll agree to disagree there. But there's an appreciation for them.
What German cars?
Well, I'm air-cooled classic enthusiast, so I have a '72 Carmen Ghia, but big Porsche enthusiast for sure. Just not quite there for affordability.
Yeah, the Porsches, they're nice. They're nice. So I respect the Porsches a lot. I respect the BMWs to an extent. But the Porsches definitely they're good. Now I have become more of a fan of the Porsches from really kind of the 991s and up.
Okay.
And then really recently I've really started to like the 930s, 993s, and 964s.
Yeah.
And the
The
turbo ones.
993s, their bodies are really nice. Like that's a great car. I have a huge respect for them. They drive so nicely too.
Yeah, yeah, 930s too for me. For whatever I love, especially like the turbo, looks good. The wide body, all that stuff. Like they did. Like I can't believe that they would be so aggressive in the body styling for those at that particular time. Like I can understand today, but like then it's pretty crazy. So those are great. They're cool. They're cool. The thing is, sometimes the Porsche people like they're just like I don't know. They're not easy to get along with. Yeah, like that's what.
So funny you say that because I feel like no matter what the manufacturer, there's always people that ruin it, right? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like I've had my introductory to Porsche was through like a really cool group of people that were very welcoming. And I had a different experience with some like American made manufacturers. And so it's so funny that you say that. I think there's just some folks that ruin it, and then there's other times it's just experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting. But yeah, those Porsches I named, those are great. Now, all the other ones, not really a huge fan. But yeah, GT3s, GT3 RS is cool. Turbo's cool. That's about it. Can't really do the Boxsters and Caymans and all that. Not really a fan of those. And 997, 996.
Fair enough. That's okay. So, Jesse, do you, as we're closing out here, is there one piece of advice that you might give your younger self starting your racing career?
Yeah, I would say for my younger self, what I would have done is I would have been like, Jesse, go take $10,000 and invest it in Bitcoin. At
At
that
that
time.
era, it was, yeah.
At that time, I would have been golden right now.
Yeah.
No, I would say there's nothing I would actually change at all. There's nothing that I would change. The only thing I would do, I would just do more, right? Just
Hmm.
hey, you're capable of whatever you're doing at that moment. You don't even realize what you're capable of more. Because when I first started, I was getting into racing, lower levels of racing, and I had just one business I was doing, which was the drag racing events. That was it. I had no other businesses. I have way more stuff I'm doing now. So because I'm doing it now means I was capable of it then and I didn't even realize it. So just I would probably let myself, hey, you're capable of more. So maybe stretch yourself a little bit more. At that time, who knows where I'd be right now. And then yeah, just do more. Just keep doing more. Whatever if you're spending 2 hours on the simulator, do three. If you are going and whatever it is, just do more. I was doing a lot and it worked out, but I could have done even more. Where would I be now?
Sure. Looking back, hindsight, right? And Jesse, where can the listeners follow along on your continued journey in motorsport and other adventures that you're involved in?
On all the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, every single one. Just look up my name. I don't have any fake names on there. It's just my name, Jesse underscore Iwuji. Very, very simple. It's JESSE underscore IWUJI. There are a lot of fake pages that try to be me. I've noticed that people send it to me all the time. It's crazy, but you'll see blue check marks next to me on most of my stuff.
He's real, guys. He's authenticated. Okay.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like there's random. I'm like, just every day I'm like, what the heck? Like it's not. This is my profile picture. That's not my page.
So weird. I
Yeah,
know people are
yeah.
so weird. Well, we will have your information all down below so people can find it with ease. Is there any closing statement you might have for the listener that's just interested in love and motorsports?
Yeah, whatever it is, whatever you see yourself doing, if it's something that comes naturally to you and authentically to you in your mind, like every day, like every time you sit down to eat, it's coming up in your mind. Every time you go take a shower, it's coming up in your mind. Every time you go work out, it's coming up in your mind. Those kind of visions, go after them. Like that is where you're supposed to be. Like God said, that's what you're supposed to be. That's why it's coming to you every single day and every moment throughout the day. Go after it, put action towards it, have massive faith that it's going to happen because the reason you're having those visions is because the deal, whatever it is done already in the future. Like you're seeing what is already happening in the future, but it will not be there anymore if you quit. So just put action towards it every day. Believe that it's going to happen because you saw it, right? Like if you saw it, why wouldn't you believe it? Like it's clear as day. You see it. And guess what? It's only for you, nobody else. That vision you got, nobody else got. So if everybody else says that you're an idiot or don't do it, don't believe in you, tell them respectively, hey, it's all good. You are given that vision. God put it in your head and your head only, so go after it. Nobody's going to see it for you. You have to see it for yourself. So that's what I have for all the listeners out there who's listening. Go after it. Whatever that natural vision is that is coming to you and occurring every step of the day, go after it or you will regret it for life. Because guess what? When you're climbing a mountain, because that's what you're going to do, it's going to hurt, it's going to be painful. But guess what hurts just as bad? Going back down the mountain. So why quit? Keep going up.
I love that. That's so good. If you see it, get after it. And remember too, like just as you were saying that it's okay to slow down, just don't stop. You know what I mean? Like if you need to just take a beat, that's okay. But I love that. Well, Jesse, thank you so much for sharing just the smallest insight into your journey and career. I'm so excited to continue watching what is ahead for you. And thank you again for talking to us. And listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Bye.